Welcome to the Honest Mamas podcast, where we talk about the emotional and spiritual aspects of the motherhood journey. We are a team of honest mamas. Myself, Melissa, Sophie, and Claire. We are psychotherapists, moms, and friends. Join us as we get real about the topics that matter to you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 25 of the Honest Mamas podcast. This is Sophie. Today, I had the honor of speaking with Susan Bradford about the topic of ritual as self-care during pregnancy. Susan is an extraordinary human being and a pillar of wisdom in her community. She is truly cherished among many. If you're at any kind of social gathering for parents in the Bay Area, her name will inevitably come up. She is a holistic childbirth educator, birth ceremonialist, and hypnotherapist. She offers holistic childbirth preparation, newborn care, and breastfeeding classes in Marin, California. What I really love about today's conversation was that Susan shared some easy, beautiful rituals for pregnant women to do in community and on their own. She explains how these self-care practices during pregnancy prepare women for giving birth and the postpartum period. Here's my conversation with Susan. Let's get started. Hi, Susan. Welcome to the Honest Mamas podcast.
Oh, hello, Sophie. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it is my pleasure. I know we've been trying for so long to have this conversation, and I'm so thrilled it's happening now, and I'm excited. So I just want to dive on in.
All righty. Me too.
Okay. So, Susan, the first question I have for you is, why do you think ritual or ritual practices are important during pregnancy?
Yeah, that's a great question. And maybe just to begin, I can explain a little bit about the word ritual, and then that can help us lead into why ritual is so important during pregnancy and the postpartum period.
Yeah, please do.
You know, ritual is an extremely ancient human tradition, and it's been used throughout all of time. I mean, recorded time, archaeological time, and probably even before that, and has been used by all the cultures throughout the planet. So it's something that you humans, we really understand it on a very deep level. We get it in our guts and our bones. We get it in our heart, into our deep consciousness. It sinks. So I believe that humans today long for more ritual in their lives because of how materialistic and fast-paced our lives have become. And ritual helps us to drop into that deep knowing of ourselves and allows us to connect with our supportive community as well. So what ritual does is it pulls together a community of like souls who are using symbols and symbolic actions in the safety of sacred space to be able to mark an important event or a rite of passage in someone's life. So this rite of passage is another term that maybe we could explain a little bit before too, and that is that there are rites of passages in everybody's lives. You know, there are seasonal ones, there are ones according to our ages and our cultures and our religious or spiritual beliefs, and there are also ones according to our genders. For women, there is the Women's Blood Mysteries, which is a rite of passage for women. This is an ancient rite of passage that has been respected for, again, millennia. And there are three of them that we speak of. The first one is menarche, which is also called first blood. And this is when a young girl becomes a young woman. So from maiden to young woman, where she is actually capable of giving birth after her first blood. The second one is the one that we're really talking about today, is the conception, gestation, and giving birth, which is a year-long or even longer process where a young woman now becomes a mother. And this is actually the most transformative of them all. This one is the threshold experience that lasts the longest and is probably the most intense and challenging for women. And the third one is menopause, or what is referred to as the 13th moon, which means a woman has had 13 months, moon and month, month coming from the word moon, has had her 13th moon of not having any blood each month. And this is when she crosses over into becoming an elder, or sometimes called a crone. So these are all based on women's ability to menstruate and to give birth. So that is the rite of passage that we're really talking about here, is the giving birth one. Right. And this is a really, really meaningful and powerful rite of passage in a woman's life, that when she is supported in it, it can actually bring an enormous amount of empowerment into this woman's life and deep knowing of herself. This giving birth stage in her life is, in my estimation, the original archetype for all vision quests that were created by humans.
That's a really, sorry to interrupt, but that's a really powerful, I mean, everything you've been saying is incredibly powerful. I just want you to say that again, because I just want our listeners to get it. And I want to take it in too. That's that one sentence you said.
Okay. This is my belief that birth is the original archetype for all vision quests that have ever been created by humans.
Thank you.
So a vision quest, for those who might not know what that is a going out into the wilderness alone to meet the unknown and to find out about themselves. This is what women do when they give birth. They go, instead of out, they go in to their own internal wilderness alone, and they meet the unknown.
Yes, indeed.
Which is why I believe that giving birth is one of the most not only creative but courageous acts human beings can do.
I am speechless and moved, and simultaneously being healed as you speak. It's all happening at once, and just love for you to continue. I just wanted to let you know where I'm at in the silence there.
Yes, that's beautiful. I'm glad that it touched you.
Thank you.
You know, Jung talks about the hero's journey, and I think this is what women do, are able to do innately. And it's internally created by their ability to give birth. Men don't have that ability, and I think that is why men created things like hero's journeys and vision quests, so that they could also have that kind of experience for themselves, since their bodies aren't able to do the birth journey themselves. But women, it is innate part of them. And in a vision quest, there are like three really important aspects, components that really need to be looked at and completed for it to be a powerful and a meaningful experience. And the first one is preparation. And that is for in today's women giving birth, that is preparing for birth through, say, childbirth classes, and also through using things like ritual to help them prepare. Then the other two aspects of a vision quest are the journey itself, which is giving birth. And then the third aspect is the return, which is what we call the fourth trimester, or the postpartum period, or the baby moon.
I love how it's called return. Something about integration and coming back to oneself anew. That inspires thoughts around that for me.
Yes, and that's what needs to be done, the integration and the asking, now that I've learned what I've learned, what do I want to do with this?
Yeah, such an important question that I feel it's missing a bit, not asked enough in this day and age around the support for women during this time. So I'm glad you're speaking to it.
Yeah, I think nobody feels that they have the time to do this in our culture, and yet it is the most important thing we could be doing for ourselves.
I totally agree. And I'm so glad you're speaking to it because we sorely need that message out to the mass culture about how critical that time period is.
Yes.
So, sorry, continue. I'd love to hear more, Susan.
So I guess what I would love to do is talk about a little bit how these practices, this ritual, can actually work for you in preparing.
Right. So you beautifully laid out the context, right? And why this matters. I mean, it's ancient, it's in us. And so if you could share a little bit about the practices and why it's important.
You know, that old Zen saying of every step of the journey is the journey is really speaking to why the preparation of all the different ways that women prepare for birth, including self-care and ritual, are so important, because it's not just the birth itself, it's the conception, the gestation, and all of the preparation that you do to prepare yourself for the journey and for after the journey as well. So there is a term that we use in the childbirth world called the birth year or the childbearing year. And more clinically, they call it the primal period now, which includes before conception all the way through to the first year of your child's life. And I just want to say that can also end up being much more than a year.
Yes, absolutely.
Because oftentimes with different issues, becoming pregnant can be years in the making. And for many women, when your child is a year old, you're still recuperating or healing from the birth experience or the postpartum experience. So it could be much more than this year or two that we're talking about for some women. I was going to say, such a relief in hearing that. There's so much permission for our listeners and for all of us. You know, it's not a fixed timeline. Right. It's different just as everything is different for each person. Right. So is this primal period or birth year. The ritual, in a way, it helps us to prepare for this initiatory experience, which is a threshold experience and extremely transformative in a woman's life. And having a ritual prepared for her helps her to feel the celebration, the honoring, and the support that comes from her family and friends, from her community. And it helps her to build trust and resilience. It helps her to feel the love and the joy and the deep bonding and the respect and the kindness that comes from the community that's there for her. It helps her to tap into her own deep knowing of herself. And again, back to this fast-paced world, it is a time to drop in and slow down and focus on what is really the most important thing for this woman right now. It's such an important and wise message, Susan. And even more so, like you're saying, in this day and age where we're so fast, things are moving so fast. And a lot of people don't carve out that space and slow down and drop in to do that type of ritualistic work that's so necessary. And it is so necessary, and it is so fulfilling when someone receives it or participates in it. That when somebody has allowed themselves to take the time to have it done for them or to be there and participate for someone who you're honoring. Everybody is so filled with love and happiness and good feelings, and so glad that they had been there and been a part of it. It is, in my estimation, what we're all longing for, and not really allowing ourselves to have.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And one other thing, I guess, that I want to add to this is, when a woman is about to give birth, it is really her alone that is going to give birth. So on that level, she alone is doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, when she can feel the love and the support of her community around her, that is acknowledging this great, courageous act that she is about to do, she can really feel that love from her community holding her and supporting her as she does it.
Mm-hmm. Which I imagine just really allows women to drop in to access that deep power within.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So how we prepare for this journey of giving birth is really essential. It is helping us to know how to navigate, how to find our strengths, know who our allies and our resources are, help us to grow a positive can-do attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Sheila Kitzinger, one of my great mentors who recently passed, has a wonderful quote that I always love what she has to say. And her quote is this, that birth is not something meant to be suffered through. It's meant to be something that is exalted in.
Oof. Okay, you got me in tears over here, Susan.
Oh, yeah, I'm kind of choking up too.
Wow. Could you please read that again? Whew.
I want to just say a little. This is Sheila Kitzinger.
Mm-hmm.
She was a British author, speaker, birth teacher for many years. She herself, I believe, had 6 babies, and she knew birth. She was an anthropologist. And one of the beautiful things that she said was, birth is not something meant to be suffered through. It is meant to be something that is exalted in.
Feels like a radical paradigm shift in my own, in myself. And I'm sure in a lot of people listening to this. And it's really moving, deeply moving.
Yes. I'm glad I got to share that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Thank you. So I'm curious at this point if you can share with our listeners some of what kinds of ceremonies or rituals that pregnant women can create for themselves during pregnancy. I mean, you so eloquently and beautifully laid out the value. That's so clear, the value. I'm wondering now if you can offer a little bit about what does this look like for pregnant women? What kinds of ceremonies can they do?
Yeah, I'd love to share some of those. One of the main ones that is really for the woman in preparation of birth is what we now call a birth blessing or a mother blessing. And again, like all cultures around this planet throughout all time, I'm sure they also had their rituals for how to do that. This one is particularly borrowed from the Navajo, who called it a blessing way. And we did for many years call it blessing way. And the Navajo has just asked us out of respect not to call it that anymore, because we're not following their method of doing it, nor are we Navajo ourselves.
Right.
So we kind of changed it to the word birth blessing or a mother blessing. And it is really customized for our mother's personal beliefs and needs and for our culture, the way we are now in this Western American, that kind of culture that we live in.
Yeah.
And so over the years since I've been doing them, it's really been, every single one has been quite different from the next, in that it's really, really geared towards that particular mother and her needs and her beliefs. Mm. It's meant to prepare a woman for the birth journey. So it, in a way, is meant to mirror what birth is like. And one of those things is that it is unknown. Mm-hmm. So what I like mothers to know is that they have some choice. They get to say they want one. Mm-hmm. They get to say who they would like it, to be there. They get to say, what day works for them. Mm-hmm. And those kinds of things. And then it needs to be relinquished, and she needs to let go, just like in birth, and let others prepare this ritual for her so that she steps into it and it is not, she doesn't know what's coming. Mm. But it is also meant to enhance her power to give birth. So people who have come together to create it and to be there are there to celebrate this rite of passage and to show their love and support for her. Mm. And some of the traditional things that have been done, and they, like I said, every single one is unique. But some of the more traditional things that are done is a foot washing, where oils and herbs and flower petals are floating in the water. The water is warm, and it's to symbolize honoring these feet that are about to take this journey and washing away her maidenhood so that her motherhood can come forth. And those that are washing and massaging her feet are showing her that they are on their knees as her humble servants. They are there for her. And so it not only is comforting, but symbolically it's very meaningful for this woman.
Yeah, I get that symbolic meaning in it. And just the marking of the transition through that gesture, through that ritual, I can feel how powerful that is, and acknowledging and valuing where this woman's about to journey into, that unknown space. Yeah.
Another one would be something called a birth power necklace. And that would be where everyone is asked to bring a bead and to place within that bead their prayer, their wish, their hope, their intention, their blessing. And as the string goes around the circle and people are putting their bead on, they speak their prayer, their blessing, so that the mother hears it and then can wear this necklace or carry this necklace during her birth.
Right. As a marker, symbolically, just she has everyone with her. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I have seen how meaningful and powerful having that at a birth can be many times, where a woman at some point, says, I need my birth power necklace. And it's brought to her, and she ceremoniously puts it over her head onto her chest or holds it in her hands, and she recalls all the love and wishes and intentions and blessings that are in it. So it can be very powerful during birth.
Yeah, and I know that to be true. I had the great honor of having a ritual held by you, and I remember I had a bracelet made by my community in that ritual that you facilitated, and I still have that bracelet. And I talk about it with my daughter now. It's a very special piece I have in my life.
Oh, that's wonderful. And that you're telling your daughter.
Yeah.
All about it.
Yeah.
And this could be passed on to her someday, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And kind of keeping the ritual alive and passing on the value of that ritual too. So important.
Yeah. Yes. Sometimes people bring poems or songs are sung drumming, an opportunity for everybody to speak from their heart to this mother. We often end it with the taking of a ball of red string or yarn and passing it around, everybody wrapping it around their wrist, the red representing the blood mysteries of birth, and then tying the two ends together to feel the connection, the unbreakable connection between everyone that's there. Mm. And then, of course, just like we have to at some point cut the umbilical cord for the child, we cut the string between everybody's hands, and everyone wears that red string until that baby is born. And that red string on their wrist is just a perpetual, constant reminder that this mama and baby still have their birth journey to take. So it keeps you connected and thinking and sending love by having this red string around your wrist.
It's so lovely, really lovely. Oh, so yeah, and I know, Susan, you also talk about the value of having some type of closure ceremony with a partner. I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit to that as well. I know that's come up for my partner and I in the past, and we've had great value in practicing some of those rituals that you suggest. Could you share with our listeners about that ceremony?
Yeah. This is one that I heard from another childbirth educator many, many years ago, and it touched me so deeply that I decided to, keep passing this information on in my classes. And the idea of a closure ritual is that whether you are just the two of you, or you already have a child and it's the three of you or the four of you, whatever the situation is of where you are right now, it's going to change when your new child is born into your life.
Yes.
So how do you honor the relationship of how it has been, maybe just the two of you as a couple or more, and be able to honor that, close that chapter, and open up the book to a brand new chapter that's coming next. So a simple way to do that is, and what I've loved is many of my couples have written me their story of how they did it. And each one is, again, very unique. They did it in their own way. But the idea is to find a good place that you would like to do this in, where you can be private. It could be a place that the two of you just love out in nature. It could be at home. And bring with you a little object that could be the symbol for your baby. It could be a little stuffed animal or a little pair of baby booties or whatever you would like that to be, your ultrasound picture.
Yeah, great.
Anything at all that just symbolizes your baby to you. And then go to this place. Some people make it a day. Some people just make it an hour. But go to this safe, private, quiet place and begin to reminisce from the very first time that you met to the present time. Going over how you first met, your first date, your first kiss, your first argument.
Great idea. Yeah. Bring it all in, right?
And really taking the time to, through laughter and tears, hugs and snuggles and all of that, just each of you sharing about your relationship up till now.
Yeah.
And when you've come to a place of completion, step back to where you place that little baby symbol, and in a little bit of a ritualistic way, pick up that symbol and say, "Okay, baby, we are ready for you. We welcome you." It's just a beautiful way to honor and bring closure to how it has been, so that you're ready to move into how it's going to be.
Wow. It's so powerful and beautiful, Susan. It's, yeah, it really is. And I just love all of the things that you've suggested and offered to our listeners for ways to really build community and to have that ritual holding that's so vital. It's so vital. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about what women can do, pregnant women can do when they're on their own. Maybe women who may not have access to community, or maybe just women who have access to community, but, are just, with themselves on a given day or night and want to drop in and have a ritual practice just for themselves. Could you speak to some of those practices?
Yes, I'd love to. And so these things that I'm going to mention can be done just, for women, for themselves, and they can also be done as a couple, either way. But these two things that I'm going to speak of are definitely things that women can do on their own. And one is a birth journal. So that's keeping a daily or a weekly diary where you can put down everything that you want, your dreams, your wishes, your hopes, your intentions for birth, for mothering, affirmations that you would like to remind yourself of for pregnancy, for birth, for parenting, being able to have a place to journal your emotions and your feelings as you're going throughout your pregnancy. Lists of baby names, drawings, collages, it can be artwork as well, photos and pictures that are just meaningful to you that you want to keep. So this is like a keepsake book. You can also keep notes and resources and books that you want to, check out and look into. Writing messages to your unborn child.
Lovely.
This can someday, if you write it also in terms of this could someday be a treasured gift for my child. Maybe when they're a teenager or going to college or becoming a parent themselves, it could be an incredible keepsake that you could pass on to your child as well.
Yeah, beautiful idea. Well, that's special. It's very special.
And another one is a birth altar. And this is really just creating a little bit of sacred space for yourself in your home. And it could be a place where you could consider just being able to meditate or contemplate, or a place to connect to yourself and to your baby, a place to quiet yourself from this busy world.
Yeah.
It could be in your house. It could be in your garden. It could be on a little tray. It could be on a table. It could be on a dresser. It could be on a windowsill. Anywhere at all. And people who make birth altars, again, they make them for what is meaningful to them. But oftentimes it will include something like a flower, a candle, a chime, symbols of birth, images or symbols that speak to them of baby and motherhood, family, ancestors, the divine feminine, any kind of items of guidance that are particularly meaningful to them.
I love that idea, Susan. I really do. And this idea too of just coming back to oneself and remembering in all the change and transformation happening that happens in pregnancy. It's nice to just come back and have that stillness to remember.
Yes, it's so key for women in pregnancy to be able to drop into themselves and out of the busy world and feel that quiet, calm, peaceful, silent place.
Yeah, I love your voice of wisdom and permission that you're giving all the women out there listening. It's so exquisite. Yes. I love it.
Yes, if you need permission, you have just gotten it.
Yes, exactly. Well, I just have one more question for you, Susan, unfortunately, because I would love to keep talking with you. And maybe I'm getting clear that we definitely need to meet again and do another podcast episode where we can talk about an entirely new topic, because there's just so much here and it's so rich. And I want to honor the slowing down and making space for, and I'm also feeling like, oh, right, there's a time frame, and I don't like that because this is so delicious and I want more of it. Well, I'm aware that absolutely this is another podcast episode, because I think it's really important and it deserves a lot of time, and I want to drop in and really unpack what's there, so we can help our listeners do the same and take some tools away with them so they can dive into this a little bit more.
Yes, I'd love to do that with you.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yes.
Well, Susan, we're coming to the end here. Anything else you want to add as we close this divine interview?
Well, I had this idea of offering one of the traditional ways we close a woman's circle, just to get the feel of what it's like when women sit in circle together during a ritual. Would that work?
Oh, I'd be absolutely open to that. Yeah, I'm intrigued.
Okay, so when I'm using the word her, you can interpret it as a pregnant mother, the great mother of us all, or Mother Earth. So how you interpret it is up to yourself, each of you listeners. But this is how the closing goes in the traditional woman's circle. By the earth that is her body, by the air that is her breath, by the fire that is her bright spirit, by the living waters of her womb. The circle is open, but unbroken. May peace go in your heart, merry meet and merry part, and merry meet again.
Thank you so much, Susan. You are just a dear, treasured elder. And I thank you so much for all the wisdom you've shared today.
Oh, well, Sophie, thank you so much for inviting me to do this. I so enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm so glad. And we will meet again in our next podcast episode.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Take care, Susan.
You too.
Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. Listening to Susan talk, I was really inspired by the value in ritual during pregnancy and how it can actually support women in having a positive birth and postpartum experience. I was so moved by Susan sharing about the 3 blood mysteries in a woman's life, pregnancy being the most transformational of the 3. I also love Susan's insight around how finding out about one's own birth and a partner's can prepare a woman for giving birth. To get our show notes and more information, go to www.honestmamas.com/episode 25. Also join our community on Facebook by going to www.facebook.com/honestmamascommunity, where conversations like these will continue.